Hello. So, 2024 has been my first year with hobonichi, and I've absolutely fallen in love with the brand. But I have been experiencing a lot of planner anxiety lately, and I kind of wanted to make a video to document these experiments and kind of do a 2025 Techo Kaigi, just to document to myself my plans and what I'm doing, the different ways I want to organize the things in my life, and just thoughts that I have. Journaling has always been a really important hobby to me, and I just really want it to work for me. I'm trying to move away from digital mediums as a way to capture my thoughts because I find that the process makes me anxious and it's not as effective as I would like it to be. But I think the one thing that digital mediums are good at is flexibility and what it allows you to do. And unfortunately, paper planners just don't have that same ability to change whenever you need it to change. The things that you put down are a bit more permanent, and I think there's beauty in that. That's really one of the major things I enjoy about paper planning and putting my thoughts out on paper, but I think it requires me to be a little more intentional in figuring out how I think and the things that work for me. So I want to make these videos to give me a space to explore and to constantly remind myself that it doesn't have to go right the first time, and 2025 is going to be a year of experimentation for me. And yeah, so I'm going to take you through my thought process and my books one by one. So this is a huge layout of everything that I've accumulated. I'm not necessarily using all of these things, but I guess I should start with this. This is an A6 leuchtturm, and it's a pocket notebook, and I'm really surprised to find myself back in this because way back in the day I decided to swear off moleskins and leuchtturms because they just weren't working for me. But I think it's because back then I was approaching them more as like fancy setup bullet journals rather than as what I plan on using it now, which is a place to just dump my thoughts and have a place to put things down on the go, so that I'm not carrying them in my head all the time necessarily. And basically I am just going to have this around with me, and I have a bit more to say about this, but I think that is more related to other things that I want to show in a moment. So I'm going to put this aside for now because this actually contains my notes on what I want to say during this video. So I'm going to prop this up in front of me and reference that before we move on. So yeah, I guess that would be a good segue into what I want to talk about next. I think I will go chronologically in the things that I thought I was going to do this year. So for now, I'm going to move this aside. And I think I will start with talking about the things that I thought I was going to do and the things that I have been using this year. So I'm going to start with these two. So this is my lovely Yumi Gishi hobonichi weeks, and this is the Techo in the original A6 format. And this was my first time with hobonichi ever, and I don't really remember how I came across these. I think I have always been hearing about hobonichi ever since I ever developed an interest in journaling. I think that could go way back to when I was in middle school or high school, maybe, probably high school. And I just heard about hobonichi all the time and Tomoe River paper, but I just never, for some reason, never really got into it. I think partially is because I mean, as a teenager, I didn't necessarily have the disposable income to just try things, so that's why I'm mainly focused on plain notebooks and bullet journals that I set up by myself. And but I think as 2023 was wrapping up, I came across videos about the hobonichi launch, which is when I remember the brand again, and I fell in love with this cover immediately, and I thought, you know, I'm moving into a new stage in life, I really want to try these out. And so I picked up a weeks, and I waited for the restock for so long. I think I got these in December, and I got the weeks and I got the original, and I told myself I was going to experiment. This was going to be my planner. This was going to be a daily journal, and needless to say, it did not work out. I discovered that these formats did not work out for me, especially the Techo original. I can do a brief flip through some of the pages. I started January off strong with a spread of the various foods that I'd eaten and drawing colors for all of them. I thought this honestly is really beautiful, but it was really hard to do. And so for the next few months, I tried doing something more like daily journaling. I think this was tracking my goal work. This was tracking my symptoms on a medication. And then I think I just kind of fell off after that. As for my daily pages, I started off with various spreads that did not really work out. I was testing out many different things, but none of it really worked. I had a few spreads that were more beautiful. I think one of my best ones was actually this one, but it just, yeah, I just don't have the patience for spreads like that, unfortunately. And something that I discovered as I was going through this book was that I didn't necessarily have like something to say every single day, but once on the days that I did have things to say, I didn't have enough space to really document everything that I was doing. And so I fell out of love with this book. I stopped using it, but I miraculously began a revival in interest for this book in October, when I discovered that it really worked as something to just, oh, these are some, I got some new washi tapes, and these were some swatches I did, so I'll leave this here just for looking. And I discovered that this book was really good as something for me to just carry around and jot down thoughts whenever I needed to, take notes on a day. And I found it was incredibly effective for that. And so I started using it again as something to just plan my days out whenever I needed to. And I got another hobonichi Techo for the year. Yeah, it was originally in this cover. I think part of my revival of interest in this book format was taking the cover off, honestly, because I just found it was really bulky and unwieldy was the cover, and I didn't love it, so I took it off, and it's been better without it. I didn't really try on this decoration, so that's why it looks a little scuffed. But I think the one that I really fell in love with was the Hobonichi Weeks. There's just something about being able to plan in this, and this cover, it's so supple and it feels lovely. The embroidery is gorgeous, it's soft, but it's sturdy, and I just love this book. Yeah, I love it. It's so wonderful. But I mean, same with the other book, I had a whole stretch throughout the middle of the year when I just wasn't planning at all. But I fell back in love with it and discovered new ways to use it. This was a spread that I was really proud of. And this one too. Yeah. And same with this book. I fell back in love with it after taking the clear cover off. It just, something about the way it just sits in the hand by itself is just so satisfying to me. And but what I really love about this book is the memo pages, being able to just write things in the back. And just, these are a bunch of test spreads for my new Hobonichi Weeks, because yeah, but I'll show you some more satisfying handwriting. I started watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine lately. This is my spread about Andy Samberg. My partner is very jealous that I like Andy Samberg so much, but it's really funny and amusing to me. But yeah, I mean, Andy Samberg, what can you do? But yeah, I only have a couple pages left, and I'm leaving these open for writing a goodbye letter to this week's, because I love this spread and I love this cover, I mean, and I am going to be really sad to let it go. Anyway, so these were my books for this year, and I will now move into my books for the new year, going chronologically in what I thought I was going to do. So when Hobonichi launched, I decided to stick with my current setup because I hadn't yet interrogated my habits very closely. And so I got another Weeks and another original with a cover. I love this cover, honestly. It feels so much better to me than the other one. I think it doesn't feel as bulky despite being the same size, but just something about the red is so gorgeous to me. And it's so cute. I love it. But I thought I was going to use this the same way I described earlier, as like a place for notes and mind dumps, but as I was testing out my current Hobonichi Techo throughout November and October, I realized that I don't necessarily need to have notes every single day. It's the exact same problem as the journaling. It's just that these pages, the size just doesn't really work out for me. I find that I don't need to do something every single day, but then when I do need to write on a day, this is not enough space for me, which is why I moved into this. It's easier to carry around because it's thinner and it's a little bit narrower than the like the standard A6 size. Like the height is an A6 size, but it's a little narrower. But it allows me to write on as many pages as I need, and I've began testing it out already, and it's lovely. Writing on this paper is it feels so much more carefree, because the Tomoe River paper is very smooth because it can accommodate fountain pen inks very well and really show off all of their characteristics. But as a result, it smudges more easily because it doesn't dry as fast. And I find that this is just so much more carefree. I have as much space as I need, and I don't really encounter any smudging. I can write as messily as fast wherever I want without having any like marks and burrs to my handwriting. It's just, I love it. It's just, it fits my hand so nicely. It's lovely. I'm gonna open it back up to my notes page so that I can continue referencing it. But yeah, so I don't really know what I'm going to do with this Techo yet. Obviously, the cover is going to be useful to me because I have other A6 journals laying around and I am just going to repurpose this for them. But for the original, I am going to use this as an experimentation book, which I will explain a little bit more. Now, this book. I am in a love-hate relationship with this book because it is cute. I've decorated it a little, but it's just, it's not her. This is so cute. I'm just so in love with this book and I'm experiencing planner grief, as you could call it, because I don't want to leave this behind. And I've also discovered since then that I am going through a little bit of a change in what I use my week's back pages for, the memo pages in the back. I use it for commonplacing a lot, writing things like random book reviews and logs to myself and things like that. And so I just need more than 71, 73 pages. So I don't know. I felt like I needed a week's mega to test, which is how I ended up with this guy. Now, this book makes my planner grief for the Yumiki Tagishi weeks even worse because it's not as cute, you know? I tried decorating it, but because it's decorated with washi tape, the washi tape comes off very easily and it doesn't adhere very well, and so I have to put a clear cover on top of it. But then, as I explained earlier, I don't think I gel very well with covers. So I don't really know what I'm going to do yet. I got a cover for this off of Etsy that is like cuter and might help me with the Yumiki Tagishi problem, but I don't know. We'll see. I plan on starting with this as my main planner for 2025. And I've already set it up. I've put in my Midori tabs and I've written out my logs in the back. So I'll explain a little what I plan on using this for. So this is going to be my key for my commonplacing washi dots. But I don't know what subjects yet. I'm going to kind of test it out and see what pages I naturally end up creating and then fill in subjects as I go, as I begin to recognize patterns. But for now, I'm going to have my 2025 goals. This is going to be a page where I do kind of like quarterly reflections. And then these, I have 12-month pages laid out. I have a Gantt chart set up on the side for each day of the month. And then I'm going to write out the month here and then kind of like a reflection here. So I have 12 pages of that set up. And then after you reach the end of the 12 months, I have my, my index with all 217 pages, starting with page 21, as this is page 16, and the index ends on page 20. Yeah, so starting with 21, I'm going to have a friends log, which is, also this is very inspired by Lindsay Scribbles. I took huge inspiration from her for how to set up this week's mega, and kind of like used her ideas as like a springboard for what I might find helpful as a thing to log. And I find that one thing that I have difficulty with is staying intentional with keeping up with my friends now that we're all out of college and working our own jobs and spread out across the country. So this is going to be a log for every time I meet up with a friend and every time I call. The date it happened, which friend it was or which group of friends, and then what we did or what we talked about. This is a gift log. This is a log of dates that I have with my partner. We don't really do like traditional like date nights or things like that, but sometimes we do something special from time to time, and I kind of want to have a way to remember that. A log of locations I've been, because I don't travel very often, and I want to explore the city more, and so I want a way to keep track of places I've been, places I go, places I like if there's a cafe that I liked, or maybe I went to a new city for the first time that year. Honestly, the place here, like there's not much. It's a huge range of different places. Now a wish list for specific items, and then a wish list for like general items. Like this might be like a specific branded set of pajamas or whatever, and then this is just like, oh, like I think I need an immersion blender, and then I'll figure out the brand later and specifications. Purchase thoughts. So I want to be more intentional about buying things that I enjoy and that I feel are quality, that I feel happy owning instead of feeling purchase guilt and things like that. And so this is going to be a way of me to keep track of things that I buy and how I feel about them, kind of like reviews to myself, except I don't usually really post online reviews. So this is just going to be a way to help me like keep track of patterns, kind of like where I bought a thing, how I bought a thing, brand of the thing, and kind of just like discover patterns and like things that I buy, things that actually bring me joy, things that were impulse purchases, etc. Just trying to be more intentional. Words and phrases that I learned throughout the year, I divided these based on like somewhat equivalent frequencies. Curiosity, just like topics about like things that I'm curious about. For example, recently I listened to a speaker talking about like energy efficiency or whatever, suddenly bring up sphagnum moss, and apparently sphagnum moss is a very important part of our ecosystems in North America, and I found that was really interesting and is something that I would like to read more about and write about, and so I would put in sphagnum moss here and then check it off whenever I do write an entry about it, which would go in the back here. And then reading log, things I want to read. Digital media log, so that would be like TV shows, anime, dramas, and then things that I want to watch or read, because like things like manhwa or manga would go in here too. I'm reserving the actual reading log for like bound books and stuff like that. And then it's empty. And this whole rest of the place, I plan on doing things like lists, kind of like lists that I did in my earlier Techo stuff, like, oh, like a list of like stationery that I want, or like a list of like stationery shops around me, or like a list of like characters that I would not mind sitting in a prison cell with for 13 years before their ex-boyfriend breaks us out and then decides to stab me to death. Stuff like that. And I think that's fun, but also commonplacing, journaling. I'm really trying to stay open, experimental with this, and see what comes to mind. I have a lot of pages for that reason. And in the meantime, you may be wondering, what am I going to do with this non-mega weeks? I think I'm going to try something where I do this for like my main planning, and then this for keeping track of routines. I have a hard time taking care of myself and remembering to, and so I am going to try to have this be things like plans like, oh, have a meetup with a friend, or like have a work meeting, or have whatever, and where my calendar actually matters. And this is going to be stuff like, oh, like I need to vacuum on this day every week, or I need to wash my hair on these days every week, or I need to like shave, or like just various self-care items, or a skincare night, kind of like twice every month, stuff like that, those kinds of routine things. And that includes things like exercise, going on runs, But most importantly, what I want to track in here is food planning. I'll give an example using this week's, where I did do some kind of food planning. And it worked out really amazingly, but the only problem is that it's a little small. Like, the grids are too small to include both food planning and normal planning. So this is kind of what I did. So for lunch, the foods, dinner, the foods, we list out all the ingredients over here, and then kind of just figure out based on the ingredients that we have in our fridge what things we're making. I found that this worked out really well for keeping us like accountable and not eating out too often. And so I think I am going to use this for that, and also self-care items, just things that keep me healthy, alive, clean, well supported. And then this is my actual calendar for like various just adult stuff. So those are my weeks. Now, the one that I am really excited about, the cousin, or should I say the A5 home. I am so excited for this. Now, I have always thought that I did not want to use an A5 size hobonichi, but I thought about it more and more, and I think what really hit me was that I fell in love with these vertical spreads. I think that I experimented a little with memory keeping in this weekly supplement that I have for 2024, and it was amazing just tracking memories throughout the day. I have a big thing about just wanting to remember things, kind of like this is kind of like a written album of my memories, you know? And I just thought it was so valuable and so amazing, but I wanted more space to do it, which is where this comes in. And one other thing that I said about the A6 earlier is that when I actually do want to do like deep introspection journaling, like kind of like diary style rambling and stuff like that, the A6 is just not enough size. But then I also don't really necessarily want to do it every day, or maybe I write a note here but then I want to elaborate more on the memory, like how the entire conversation went and stuff like that, which is where the daily pages come in, because it is just such a satisfying amount of space. And I'm going to see if this works out for me. I'm so excited to memory keep in here. I was thinking that if I really do need more than one page, I could kind of spill over and ignore the dates, but then that kind of lends itself to, well, then why didn't I just get a common planner? I mean, the answer is simple. I'm just really attached to Hobonichi as a brand. I love the covers. I love the feel of the book. But I do have a brief solution for that, which is the A6 memo pads. These are perforated, and so you can rip the pages out, and what I'm planning on doing is just using these as like tip-ins, where I like will tear one out and then like glue it in here, you know, or like here, just, you know, so that I keep the bulk from like only being here or whatever. But yeah, I was thinking that that would be an excellent way to journal. But we'll see. I think I'm avoiding the reality that maybe what I want is an A5 common planner, but I don't know. We'll see. What I don't like about the common planners is that they don't have a 24-hour timeline, whereas the Hobonichi cousin does. Like I think the common planner A5 size stops here or something. And I think the B5 size does have the 24-hour schedule, but B5 is just a little too big for me. So, yeah, I think that I can basically divide my needs in notebooks down into a few categories. I think what I need is a reference book, a source of truth, plans that I can rely on, and I think that will be really difficult for me because it requires consistency. the hobonichi weeks, these planners are basically going to be my source of truth, my reference material. If I need to do something, it goes in here. This is for memory keeping. And this is my thinking book. So reference, memories, thinking. I will be using this to just think through my thoughts before it goes into here. I don't want to use this for like messy planning because it needs to be a source of truth for me, something that I can rely on. So I'll do my messy thinking in here, my referencing in here. This is my reference for the future, thinking for the future, and this is oriented towards the past. Memories and reflections and introspections. Reference for the future, thinking for the future. Reference for the past, thinking on the past. And I sincerely hope that will work out for me. Yeah, so that is my Techo Kaigi. There are a few more books that I want to go through, which are not necessarily related to my planner practice or journaling practice. This is a Midori B6, slim that I use for morning pages. Just is very casual. This is a Yumiki Tagishi A5 cover, inside of which I have a journal. This is an Apica Premium CD in A5. I love their paper. It's so thick and so smooth, even smoother than Tomoe River paper. And fountain pen behaves beautifully on it. It also doesn't bleed. This is for creative writing, and this is my Burn and Stillman? Stillman and Burn. This is my Stillman and Burn sketchbook. It has lovely cream 100 something GSM paper. It has beautiful tooth to it, so pencil is amazing on it. So this Yumiki Tagishi cover basically holds my creative practice. It fits perfectly. It's really gorgeous. I'm really pleased with it. And other than that, I think that is it, really. Let me just check my notes one more time to see if I'm missing any books. So I have a list of things that will be difficult for me. So one thing that will be difficult for me is consistency when it comes to my weeks, because in order to have a consistent source of truth, you need to be really diligent with your planner so that it's something that you can really rely on. I think that's going to be difficult for me in the weeks. I think something else that's going to be difficult for me is staying mindful of just my scrawling writing and where I think it belongs. Right now I have a few places where that might happen. This book for one, my daily pages in my cousin, and my memo pages in my weeks. I think I need to stay mindful of just do what's natural in the moment, but kind of be aware of the patterns that arise, the writing that goes where. Another thing is staying mindful of what time frames work best for me. I think I'm very much a weekly thinker. I think in terms of weeks, but I think I need to train myself to also think in terms of days to stay present, but also months to stay aware of my bigger plans and things that need to get done. Minimizing places where I dump random thoughts. So I capture my errant thoughts in a lot of different places. My notes app on my phone, the sticky note in the front of my weeks, I keep one there where I can mind dump things as I think of them. This, and then my morning pages, daily notes everywhere. I try to minimize places where I capture thoughts, but obviously it's difficult. And this kind of ties back to the one I have starred here. Basically, mindfulness. Just keep in mind that I'm experimenting, but also to recognize patterns. And to figure out what types of info I need readily available to me. So that would be the memo page in the weeks. This, to kind of figure out stuff that I need here. I think I might do another video sometime explaining like how I use each of these journals, maybe like one by one, how I use the weeks, blah, blah, blah. I think that might be better for when the new year actually begins. But, yeah, there's a lot more detail I could have gone into, but honestly, I've been rambling for too long anyway. So yeah, those are things that are going to be difficult for me. And honestly, I just want to keep in mind that my journaling practice is not going to be perfect the first time I do it. And this video is kind of a reminder to myself of where I am right now on December 9th, 2024. And it's a time capsule, what I'm thinking now, and to see where I go from here. Because journaling is really important to me. And yeah, thank you for listening if you have been watching this video. This is a time capsule for myself, but if you have been listening to me talk about this, then thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.